At the beginning of the story, Georgia didn't stand out in appearance. His build broader than most people around him. These traits made him blend into the crowd. He had always been single, living a simple, predictable life. Get off work, go home, cook. Cooking was what he knew best. Every night, he watched cooking shows on TV and followed them step by step. If the show sliced ingredients a certain way, he did the same. If the plating looked a certain way, he copied it exactly. The finished dishes looked almost identical to what was on screen, but Georgia never ate them himself. Instead, he invited the neighbors' kids over to eat. The children ate happily, while Georgia sat nearby, quietly eating a bland salad. One day, Georgia invited his co-worker Sean over for dinner. He prepared a full spread, appetizers, main courses, and dessert. After tasting the food, Sean suggested they go out to eat together sometime. Just then, Georgia suddenly stood up. The movement was too fast. Something slipped from his hand and hit the floor. He bent down to pick it up, then hit his head on a cabinet as he stood. The next moment, he collapsed. Sean rushed him to the hospital. At first, the doctors thought it was just a minor bump, but during the examination, they noticed Georgia's reactions were off. He couldn't even follow simple instructions. Sensing something was wrong, the doctors ordered a CT scan immediately. When the results came back, the doctor's expression changed. He told Georgia, the scan showed cancer, and it was already severe. The doctor was blunt. Georgia had only 3 weeks left to live. Georgia asked for a re-examination. The results didn't change. He wanted treatment, but the insurance company said the procedure wasn't covered. The cost would be entirely out of pocket. Loans, surgery, risks, debt, all of it hit him at once. That night, Georgia returned home alone. He opened the notebook, where he had written his plans for the future. It was filled with things he once hoped to do, but now, it all felt meaningless. The next day, Georgia made a decision. He chose to give up treatment. First, he went to his boss's office. Other co-workers were there. In front of everyone, Georgia took off his high-heeled shoes and slammed his boss's phone onto the desk. The phone shattered instantly. Everyone froze, because in their eyes, Georgia had always been the quietest, most obedient one. After that, Georgia turned and walked out. This time, he left on his own terms. Sean had no idea what was going on. He thought Georgia had just left work early, and even apologized for the accident the day before. He invited Georgia again to go watch a game together. Georgia declined. As he turned to leave, Sean slipped a game ticket into his hand anyway. Next, Georgia went to church. The politician who was supposed to attend canceled at the last minute. An event people had prepared for weeks ended just like that. Georgia stood inside the church, listening to people talk. Then he walked to the front. When he spoke, the crowd responded along with him. Afterward, Georgia left the church and threw his dream list into the trash. Then he went to the bank. He withdrew every cent he had saved over more than a decade. After that, he booked a plane ticket and officially began his trip. Economy class was cramped. The seat in front of him pressed almost against his knees. A flight attendant came over and suggested he upgrade to first class. Georgia didn't hesitate. He swiped his card. Once in first class, everything felt instantly spacious. After landing, he even rented a helicopter. It landed directly on the rooftop of a mountaintop hotel. The moment it touched down, all eyes were on him. Staff rushed over to take his luggage, their attitude respectful and eager. Georgia checked in. Since his room wasn't ready yet, only the presidential suite was available. For $1,000 per night, Georgia agreed. From that moment on, everyone assumed he was someone extremely important. After he settled in, the staff's attitude completely shifted. His luggage was carried away. Doors opened for him. Attendants stood by, ready to serve at any moment. Georgia wasn't familiar with these customs. In his room, he casually pulled out a thick stack of cash and handed it to the attendant as a tip. The attendant froze, only daring to take one bill, and politely return the rest. That gesture alone convinced the staff even more that Georgia was no ordinary guest. Later, Georgia wandered around the hotel and entered a luxury clothing store. The price tags alone were intimidating. Georgia didn't hesitate, trying on nearly everything he liked. Once dressed in well-tailored clothes, his entire presence changed. At the same time, several important guests were staying at the hotel. One of them was the chairman of a major corporation. He was there to strengthen ties with a politician. He also brought along a young secretary. The chairman noticed Georgia. Wherever Georgia went, staff greeted him first. Even the head chef treated him with special warmth. All of this made the chairman wary. On the night of the banquet, the restaurant glowed with bright lights. The head chef personally prepared a full table of off-menu dishes for Georgia. Their conversation was relaxed and familiar. The chairman and the politician saw it all. They quickly concluded that Georgia must be a low-key but highly influential figure. After dinner, the politician approached Georgia on his own. That alone deeply irritated the chairman. The next day, the hotel arranged a skiing activity. Georgia joined. At first, the instructor held on to him, guiding him slowly forward. The moment the instructor let go, Georgia lost control. He shot down the slope, faster and faster. From a distance, his movements looked smooth and skilled. The chairman assumed Georgia was showing off. He quickly geared up and chased after him, trying to get closer. The chairman didn't realize Georgia wasn't performing at all. When the chairman caught up, Georgia instinctively grabbed him, trying to stop himself. The result, the chairman lost balance and crashed into the snow. Gasps erupted around them. Unwilling to give up, the chairman got back up and chased again. Neither noticed the steep downhill ahead. At the last second, Georgia accidentally slipped past the barrier, safely exiting the danger zone and coming to a stop. The chairman wasn't so lucky. He fell flat on his back, completely humiliated. After skiing, Georgia returned to the hotel and booked a top-tier massage. The therapy room was quiet until arguing erupted next door. A technician had accidentally hurt the secretary's neck. The chairman immediately lashed out. Hearing this, Georgia stepped out and publicly stopped the chairman. The secretary was stunned. Later, the secretary sought Georgia out. He explained that he came from a humble background and entered the workforce early to survive. Though he appeared glamorous, his life had never been easy. Georgia listened and simply advised him not to place too much hope in promises. The secretary never forgot those words. Meanwhile, the chairman began sensing something was wrong. Every time Georgia appeared, his plans seemed to fall apart. His suspicion deepened. The hotel soon hosted a formal gala. Politicians, executives, and wealthy businessmen from around the world filled the guest list. Before the event, the chairman hoped to dine privately with the politician. Instead, the politician invited Georgia to join their table. Despite his frustration, the chairman had no choice but to agree. Once seated, the head chef personally served the dishes, customized to Georgia's preferences. As the chef spoke with him repeatedly, everyone became convinced. The chairman's face darkened. After dinner, people gathered around Georgia, while the chairman's table slowly emptied. That night, they moved on to a casino. Lights flashed. Tension filled the air. Most people quickly lost their chips. When it was George's turn, he pushed all his chips onto number 17. It was his mother's birthday. The chairman mocked him for ignoring probability. Georgia said nothing. Others followed his lead. The wheel stopped. 17 hit. Again, 17. Again, 17. 3 consecutive wins sent the room into chaos. Everyone who followed him struck it rich. Only the chairman, who trusted his own judgment, lost everything. That night, Georgia became the center of attention. Later, they attended a concert. Even those who weren't interested sat through the entire performance in silence. Afterward, the hotel manager finally grew suspicious. He secretly investigated Georgia and found his old employee badge. He also discovered a pre-written letter detailing arrangements for Georgia's death. The manager realized he had been completely mistaken. Meanwhile, Georgia stared at the massive check he had won, unsure what to do. At that moment, the politician approached him again. They spoke briefly before the politician left. The chairman saw this and assumed Georgia was deliberately undermining him. Determined to test him, he insisted on joining Georgia for bungee jumping the next day. The politician declined the chairman's invitation and chose to support Georgia instead. That was the final blow. The next morning, the bungee platform stood above a deep canyon. Few dared to jump. Georgia stepped forward first. The staff checked his gear carefully. Georgia cooperated fully. The chairman arrived, confident he could regain control. The politician cheered for Georgia. When it was Georgia's turn, he jumped without hesitation. Applause erupted. Then it was the chairman's turn. He hesitated, panicked, and lost control. Accidentally pulled off the platform. Though unharmed, he hung upside down, utterly humiliated. Afterward, he became a laughingstock. The manager investigated further and finally confirmed the truth. Georgia wasn't a hidden tycoon. He was just a department store employee, misdiagnosed with only weeks to live. The doctors had mixed up the files. Georgia was never terminally ill. The truth reached the hotel, just as Georgia prepared his final luxury meal. The manager told him everything. Georgia was stunned. After repeated confirmation, he accepted the truth. Sean also arrived, seeking answers. Seeing Georgia in a luxury hotel, dressed in custom clothes, he was speechless. The truth spread. Shock followed. The chairman realized he had been outplayed by an ordinary man. Without intent, Georgia finished his vacation, returned home, went back to the department store. This time, he spoke up, and he was heard. The woman who once caught his eye re-entered his life. In the end, The vacation didn't end his life. It changed how he lived it. The image freezes. The story ends.